Greetings, greetings, greetings. You are now tuned into the Vault. Trust Christian own, nothing control everything. Just want to thank you for tuning in live, listening to replay. Always appreciate everybody that tunes in live, listens in the replay. This is the Vault, episode 507, second of two trust don'ts, fraudulent transfer. Definitely want to do this episode. Really excited for all the people that tune in live, listen to replay. If you listen to replay, definitely hit the like button. Always appreciate everybody that hits the like button. Just grows the channel. We always appreciate it. We've been growing for years and just going to continue to grow. So thank you everybody that hits the like and just hit the like and the subscribe button so you can get the pop-up episodes when we do the episodes. So here we go. Episode 507. Second of two trust don'ts, fraudulent transfer. So this is definitely one of those episodes where, this is by trustee request. That's main concern of trustees. Is it the two don'ts that you do pretty much get you in situations, or trustees usually get in situations because of these things. And so there's a lot of cases. We can always talk about cases, ladies and gentlemen, for the commingling and the fraudulent transfer. We can talk about those cases. At the same time, ladies and gentlemen, either way, you're just not supposed to do them. So people say, "Oh, well, what's a fraudulent transfer?" So it's not. This isn't financial advice. It's not legal advice. But we're going over the facts that there is a thing called a fraudulent transfer. And we've heard people come on the line for years and ask these questions. Well, what happens? Can I take, my government name and put it in a trust and get rid of debts? No. These are the mentalities that some people have. You say, "Oh, well, I'm not supposed to have that. There is no money." These are the type of conversations people have that'll say things that could get them in those fraudulent transfers. They'll say things like that, like, "Well, there is no money." Well, if they're saying that there's no money, why would there even be a thing called a fraudulent transfer? Because if you're trying to transfer or abscond from a debt, because really that's what it is, trying to abscond from a debt, it looks like that. Well, do people want to be caught up in this situation? Eh, they're going to tell you, "Oh no, I'm going to do everything. I don't want to mess up." First of all, we're doing the two mess ups, which is commingling funds and fraudulent transfer. We're doing the two episodes that are the things that will get a trustee in the world of trouble. It actually get the corporate veil pierced. It'll get it to where the gov will definitely feel like, "Hey, we need to be able to see the books now." Why? Because we're actually going to see if we can get you on these two for sure, which is a commingled funds or a fraudulent transfer. Oh, what did you fraudulently transfer? Could be property. Did you try to transfer a house? Oh, there's no debt. The mortgage is already paid off. This is what they say on the line, ladies and gentlemen. Some people say, "Oh, it's not legal advice." You're right, but it's definitely just not blatant common sense. But at the same time, we're still having conversations, have consultations that even if you're not, how do we say this? It's about fraudulently transferring things, trying to take things from one name and putting them in another name, taking them out of one name and trying to say that there's other liabilities or encumbrances possibly on something and they don't have them now because they've been some type of transfer and title. This is what people ask all the time. They come on the line and say, "Well, how's the trust going to pay my bills? How's the trust going to pay for my car?" You hear how we talking here? Trustees, how's the trust going to pay for my house? How's it going to pay for my rent? This is how you know, are you living in trust or not? That's really how it is. Are you living in trust, or are you playing with it? It's just another thing. It's not a wealth transferring tool. It's not a Ferrari. It's not a Rolls Royce. Well, what is it? It's a wealth transfer tool. If it's a wealth transfer tool, then you got to transfer wealth, money, assets, and they're not through fraudulent transfers. They're not through a fraudulent conveyance. These are the type of things that people could say, people could ask. How's it not a fraudulent transfer? Well, when we talk about title, think about it. When they transfer real estate, they usually transfer real estate through a clearing of a title. There's procedures, there's process, procedure, and procedures in place. There's actually a system in place that has those process and procedures. People say, "Oh man, it comes down to do you know the private system?" Oh, the public system, we all know that. Think about it. Most people know it. They may not know it to the best of their ability, but they know it for the most part. Why? Because most people were born in the public. Most people went to public school. By them going to these environments, they're pretty adept on public information, public education. But when we talk about private, we're not talking about a fraudulent transfer. We are talking about a private system that says you don't do those things. It's a don't in the private. You don't fraudulently transfer in the private. Can it happen? Sure. But does it traditionally happen? Not really. Why? Because usually in the private sector, we're going to go through where the public process started. The public process of clearing title started in the private with people clearing title. So traditionally, private equity firms, that's the easiest way to name them. These type of companies, these people, they're going to do their due diligence and they're going to make sure and clear title. They're going to make sure that the title's clear before they purchase the asset or they acquire the asset. These are how high level trustees are thinking. They're thinking, is the title clear for this asset and the transferring of the asset? Is it encumbered? This is, where we talk to trustees or, consultation. We'll talk about incomes and then if you have anything that might be an asset and knowing the difference. So it's interesting to know that when we talk to people in the public, whether it's consultations or actual trustees, this is something a trustee might be in the program for maybe 2 or 3 weeks. We've already gone over it, and they still need a high level of reiteration. You say, "Oh wow, what technology tools could you use?" That's the most important thing is being able to get the information repetitively over and over to the trustee, because this is a conversation when we talk about a fraudulent transfer. It really is going to come down to the trustee reading case law, feeling confident in case law that they're not going to make these mistakes that they might be scared of or not aware of, and they want to avoid. Well, if you want to avoid it, it's good to read about the successful cases that may have been accused, but they stayed in good standing, stayed in good faith, and that's if you're looking to remain in good faith, then it would be the best thing to read cases. Some people say, "Oh, I don't know where to start with cases." Well, you can Google top 10 fraudulent transfer cases and you can write in there plaintiff that won as opposed to them being, well, the defendant that won, because they're being accused of a fraudulent transfer, so they'd be the defendant. And so you read those cases, you might read them on a fed level, you might read them on a state level, but you're reading these things. So fraudulent transfer, it was funny because we were talking to someone the other day and their trustee, and this trustee was talking about what was a fraudulent transfer or what was considered a fraudulent transfer, and how because they're in trust, the fraudulent transfer, even if it was a fraudulent transfer, doesn't affect anything with them personally because they're in trust. It doesn't affect them personally. Fraudulent transfers, ladies and gentlemen. Are these affecting you personally? Can they affect you personally? Well, of course they can affect you personally if you have assets in your name and you're doing fraudulent transfers. If you had them in your name and then you try to get rid of a debt, that could be a fraudulent transfer. Trustees ask this question over and over and over. How do you get the definition? You go to the definition, you go to the dictionary, you go to Black's Law. You don't go to the 8th edition. For all you all to have anything like less than a 6th edition, you're missing out definitions. And that's just the facts. We did the commingling episode. We thought we were going to see commingling. Commingling came up as such a capitalized acronym, it's not even funny. And so that means now that you have to know synonyms of the words and things of that nature. So that's one thing we'll say, ladies and gentlemen, is when you look into that information, when you look into the information, when you look into being trusteeship, being aware of what to do and what not to do comes from reading case law. This is what makes the best trustees. What makes the best trustees is the education that they have based off of them reading, not just cases. Uh, what would they say? Not just cases, the dictionary. We would say reading a dictionary is definitely one of those things that you definitely are going to, double down on. We got a lot of trustees enrolled in the program right now. They have dictionaries. We actually have seen one that recently, I think, had the fourth or fifth edition, which was really good, and that was a big deal because they had a good version of legal terms and financial terms that, a fraudulent transfer is going to be pretty evident in those versions, whereas in the newer versions it may not be. So this is definitely one of those episodes we're not going to drag out or be long-winded with, but we are going to say this is one of the biggest concerns with trustees when they're enrolling in the program or when they're in the program, and that is, how do I not commit a fraudulent transfer? So, it's one of those things. Even if you have proper legal counsel, you wouldn't do it, because if you are in your proper standing as a trustee, you'd be able to go to some type of lawman or a lawyer, and you'd be able to go to them and have a conversation and say, hey, how is property transferred properly in this particular state, county, or jurisdiction? And it could be even another country. When you go to other countries, it's the same thing. You go interview the lawyers, you go interview the solicitors, you go interview the barristers, you go and interview them, and you ask them questions about, what is going to, have you seen any cases that have dealt with this type of stuff? Have you dealt with any cases that deal with these type of things? And how is the clearing in titles and proper transferring of assets? These are things that you ask the lawmen, so you don't get into those bad situations. Some people say, oh man, well, why don't you just do a trust Christian vote? Because once again, we're not here to raise dependents. What happens is most people think that they work for the lawyer, instead of them saying, I need a lawyer to tell me, because the lawyer works for you because you cut the check. You say, lawyer, I need you to tell me how to transfer properly in this county without it being a fraudulent transfer. That's literally how you do it. And if you're in what is that, Louisiana, it's a parish. Period. And that's something that we've already started talking to international trustees about. If you're in an international jurisdiction, of course you got to talk to, if anything, we would say go talk to the best lawyers and the best accountants in your specific environment and jurisdiction, because they're going to give you the best advice because they're the best in that environment. There you go. Appreciate everybody for tuning in live, listening to replay. Feel free to reach out, Christian at trustchristian.com. Once again, it's Christian at trustchristian.com. We got a special announcement coming up soon, so just be on the lookout for that. Peace.